Hi guys, this is Primus Veku at Primus Learning, and this is a new series I'm beginning, right? So we want to talk about how to get a cloud computing job, how to get cloud hired. So I'll be doing this in a series of videos, guys. So I want to help you. Maybe you're out there looking for a job and you've been struggling for a while. You want to get a solutions architect job, you want to get a DevOps job, and it's been tough. You don't know what's happening. You can't get it. You've been applying for a long time. It's been 2 years out of training and you're not able to land yourself a job. What is happening? What are you not doing right? What do you not get right? This series will be about all of that, right? We'll be answering your question. We'll be walking you step by step all the way to helping you land your very first IT job or your very first cloud computing job, even if you are already in IT. So guys, we will be starting these by giving you the techniques, the strategies, the methods through which you can get hired, the methods that will make you hireable, the methods that will make you show that you know how to do stuff. So the first thing is that you have to show that you have evidence of work and proof of work. These are two big things, right? How do you show that you have evidence of work? How do you convince the interviewer that you have that evidence that shows that you've worked before, that shows that you have the experience that they need to hire you? Now, the very first thing you need to put in mind is the company wanting to hire, the company that has the job posts has something in mind. They want to hire somebody to come in and help them do a particular thing. So they are not looking for general skills. They are not looking for generalists. They are not looking for people with any other type of skill. They are looking for a particular skill set, someone who has the specific skill sets that they need. Now, that's the first thing you need to understand. Once you've understood that, you therefore need to put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer. If I am this guy and I'm hiring for this particular thing, what would it take me to hire someone? Now, you want to be the interviewer while preparing. You want to put yourselves in the shoes of the interviewer while preparing. So take, for instance, a job opportunity that is asking you to, in the job description, of course, to know Redshift, to know how to work, to have worked with Redshift, have experience with Redshift, you've worked with Lambda functions, you've worked with S3, you've worked with EC2 instances, you've built CI/CD pipelines, you've done Kubernetes, and so on and so forth. All right, that's the experience they have out there. Now, as an interviewer, I will be prompting you. I'll be trying to know from you, hey, how have you used Redshift? How have you used S3? Have you been able to build something up from that maybe leverages S3 and pushes data out to Redshift and that authenticates to Redshift? Have you built Redshift clusters before? Have you managed Redshift databases before? Have you connected to Redshift through JDBC connections? How have you used Redshift? Those are the things I'll be prompting to understand from you, the person who is interviewing for that particular position. And I will be wanting to know, hey, has this person been able to use Lambda functions? How did you use Lambda functions? How did you write your Lambda functions? What were your Lambda functions for? What were your Lambda functions geared towards? What are some of the packages that you used with your Lambda functions? Those are the things I'll be trying to understand from you, the person who is interviewing for a role that has those things in the job description. So guys, when you're preparing for a job to be hired as a solutions architect, you need to prepare from the mind of the interviewer. You need to therefore prepare all those things. You need to have use cases, evidence of work or proof of work. You need to be able to talk to convince the interviewer that you understand the process. You know how Lambda functions work. This is how I use Lambda functions to do this. So it's coming from the point of view of a solution. You want to deliver a solution. You're coming in, they're hiring you because they have a problem and they want you to come and solve that problem. How would you solve that problem? How would you show that, oh, here is evidence of work, right? How would you show that you have that experience that it takes to solve that problem? Proof of work. How do you show that you've worked before in a similar position? Those are the things you'll be trying to fill as you study and prepare for a solutions architect role to fill that kind of position, right? So what will you do when studying? What do you then therefore need to do when studying? You need to understand SQL. So you work on your SQL, guys, because Redshift is a database. After all, it's a database where you can fetch and run queries and all of that. You need to understand the basic syntax of SQL, and it's very important for any solutions architect. You need to understand Python. You need to understand how to put data into Redshift, how to remove data from Redshift, how Redshift architecture works, how Redshift, you can scale up Redshift clusters, how you can scale down Redshift clusters, and how you can increase capacity in Redshift, right? And the whole thing about Redshift, you need to have use cases. So for instance, you have a use case where you have data that is pushed into S3, and the Lambda functions process that data and maybe change the format to Parquet and pushes that data to a Redshift cluster from where an analytics team is using that data for analytic purposes, right? So that is already a use case that you can build out for yourself. AWS has resources that show you how to do that step by step. So all you need to do is go to the AWS resources and practice and practice and practice and practice so that it becomes a part of you. And so when you're talking about it, you will not just be saying, hey, I have experience using S3, but you'll be telling them, this is how I used S3. You have pushed data out in S3. I have an example that I will show you how to push data in S3 and partition it, and how you can transform that data into Parquet using either Lambda functions or just a Python script that you run on a notebook instance or a Jupyter notebook instance. I will show you that in another video after this, still in this series, guys. And so it's really about how you prepare to face the interviewer. You want to have the mind of the interviewer. Prepare for your interviews with the mind of the interviewer. That's the very, very basic fundamental principle when preparing for interviews, guys. The second thing is you need to study. You need to study. I don't believe that you want to go into interviews empty. Study 2 hours a day when you're preparing for interviews. It's not only about what you've learned, AWS services. It's not all about AWS services. There are interconnected components in IT. Every component in IT is interconnected. So you want to understand what databases are, how they work, how databases connect to other things. Database clients, how you would connect to a database and fetch data, what that connection is even all about. Is it a JDBC connection? What are the endpoints to that database? How is that database built? How can a database scale? How can a database fail over to a replica database or a replica set, right? How can a database, how can there be data disaster recovery, rather, when a database, something happens to the database, right? And so you need to understand all of those, and then you need to also understand how Python works in general. This is a very important concept, for instance, for someone who wants to be a solutions architect, right? And if you want to be a DevOps engineer, there are things that are specific to DevOps, right, that you need to understand. You need to understand the whole concept of CI/CD pipelines, how CI/CD pipelines work with Jenkins, how CI/CD pipelines work with GitHub Actions, how they work with GitOps, how they work with different tools. There are a lot of tools out there that are CI/CD pipeline tools, and that are basically DevOps tools. And we have videos that show you how to do that, how to migrate stuff using pipelines, how to, work around all of these things. You need to have use cases, specific use cases that prove that you have that experience, that gives the interviewer evidence of your work, right? You need to be able to convince the interviewer. And so when you're studying, you want to study out of scope. Don't just focus on AWS, don't just focus on DevOps. Rather, understand how the relating services work, how networking works in general. AWS services without networking, how does the back end connect to the front end? How does a database connect with the application itself, with the application interface? How does S3 connect with Redshift? How does S3 and Lambda function? How does, how all those things are interrelated? All of them are interrelated, guys. So it's about understanding that process. Once you've understood that process, you need to be able to apply for 50 jobs a day. That's the formula. There's nothing around it. You have, in fact, thousands and thousands of people applying for the same job you're applying for. So there is somebody out there wanting to have your job, somebody who has actually been in the field for 20 years, who is applying for that same job you're applying for. So guys, it is time to put yourself into work. You have to work to earn that position. And so it takes a lot of energy to prepare, right? So to put your things together, and you have to know how to express what you have in mind. You may be very technical, very good at what you do, but you don't know how to express it. And so if an interviewer asks you how to tell them about yourself, that question always comes up. Explain to us, who you are, your experience and all that. You need to trace a history of your experience. You need to tell them, hi, Primus Veku, I started off my career as a maybe business intelligence developer or an Oracle developer, and I worked with this company, and we were helping stabilize the business intelligence processes. We were building a data lake because of this, the client wanted to do this, and my main contribution there was helping build that Redshift, blah, 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 or that business intelligence dashboards and all of that, right? And then an opportunity came and I moved to my next job, and you give that transition link. How did that happen in the next job? In the next job, you're a solutions architect and you are helping the client build a solution for their data. Maybe you can say their data lake or something. And in doing that, you leveraged S3 and all that to build pipelines, right? So you build pipelines that were blah, 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 blah. And after that, you come to your current role. What are you currently doing, right? You tell them about your current role. These have to match the use cases you've prepared, because you can't go into an interview without use cases. If you have experience from the previous job, you talk about that experience. If you don't have experience, you've been practicing it, that's the experience. You've been building stuff. AWS has stuff about things that have been built by other companies. They just have them out there. That's real experience. Share that experience. Be fluent with it. You can't be practicing something and you don't know it, right? So when I'm interviewing you, I'm trying to discuss. It's not like I want to punish you. I'm discussing. You are the boss. And so come in from a position of power, a superior position, and be talking with confidence. You want to share just the experience that you have. People don't force you in interviews to answer what you don't know. So don't be afraid. You want to simply share your experience, guys. And so when you come in there, be powerful, be confident, and talk about what you know, what you have experienced. And that's exactly what you were building. And so if you come in timid and afraid, you just tell me, hey, I've used these services, and then when I want to dig deep into it, you collapse down. So guys, you need to study these things. Open your mind and be inquisitive, learn a lot. These things will help you as you journey along. So this was the very first video in the series. I would have a lot more videos that are tailored to particular use cases, to particular roles. For instance, data engineering, DevOps, AWS solutions architect, cloud engineering, data engineering, and all those things, right? So I'll be putting these together into perspective so that we can prepare you to hit the ground running when you're taking your first IT job. Guys, this is a beautiful area. Looking forward to hearing from you. As you subscribe to our channel, please also share this video to help us talk to many more people as we go along. Thanks, and bye-bye.